Deadline is in search of a story. Do we find it? Directed by Walter Hill, written by Walter Hill and Mae Woods, and shot by Rick Boda. Based on a story from Shock Suspense Stories number 12. Walter Hill's final tale behind the camera isn't exactly front page material. I don't talk about the Crypt Keeper as much as I should, but with a tracking shot and skeleton patrons and waitress, this episode has one of the most elaborate setups for our host yet. Reporter Larry begs his editor for his job back, but his alcoholism makes him too much of a risk. Larry has been turned down by every other newspaper in town, but he swears he's kicked the habit. He's clean now. His editor wants to know why the sudden change in lifestyle. Did he meet a woman? In fact, he did. Larry thinks back to when he met Annie a week ago in a bar. But first, let's meet our protagonist of the show, Charlie, also an alcoholic former reporter. He's getting into it with the bartender, who thinks he's had enough. Charlie disagrees. That's when Vicky walks in. Charlie buys her a drink, and the two don't quite hit it off right away.
What's a pretty lady like you doing in here? Waiting for somebody?
Nobody special.
See, I'm a reporter. Always trying to get at the facts. Now, good-looking girl, sitting in a Skid Row bar alone. There's a good chance she's a hooker.
Even though it's none of your business, I'm not for hire. I'm real particular.
But things go well enough. Charlie hopes Vicky is exactly the motivation he needs to get his life back on track. The two spend the night together. In the morning, she tells him she's not looking for anything serious, but is okay if they keep seeing each other. Annie sits down next to Larry and starts chatting him up. He's a nice guy, and she has a car, so the two go for a drive all night long. They have a wonderful time, but keep all their personal details out of it. When Larry wakes up in the morning, he finds a note from Annie to meet her again next week. Same time, same bar. Which brings us to Charlie and Larry's editor. Our reporter friend needs money. After all the begging and pleading, his editor makes a deal with him. If Larry can find a story worthy of a front page headline, he can have his job back. Charlie's editor is more specific. He wants a murder story.
All I want is another chance. I'm a damn good reporter. You know that, Phil.
All right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a trial run. You want a job? Well, you go out there and you prove to me that you can still bring in a story.
Damn right. I'll get you a page one break.
Now, bring me a murder, Charlie. Something juicy.
Larry and Charles take the deal. Charles borrows a couple $100s from his sister. He meets Vicky again and passes it off as a cash advance from the newspaper. He's also going sober. For real this time. The two spend another night together, and it's clear Charlie wants something more. In the morning, he starts hitting the phones in search of a lead. He is turned away by everybody. Larry knows he can succeed with Annie inspiring him, but he meets her again tomorrow. He needs the money today. It's nighttime and still no front page story. It's been a rough day. Larry and Charles want a drink. The bartender refuses to serve Charles, but Larry is able to resist on his own. Our reporter steps into an all-night diner for coffee. While minding his own business, he overhears an out-of-control argument coming from the couple living in the apartment attached to the diner. Upon hearing somebody hitting the ground hard, Nico, the owner of the diner, comes out. His wife is dead, her body slumped over. He killed her. He says she deserved it. Larry and Charles have found their front page story. Nico shares his experience, how he fell in love with one of his waitresses and married her. But she was only interested in his money, spending everything he earned on new clothes, new furniture, and a new car. But that wasn't enough. She went out with any man she desired, and not even behind her husband's back. Nico hired a private investigator to follow her. Last week, she went out with some random guy for an entire night. Tonight, she was going to meet him again. This was the last straw. Without thinking, Nico strangled her to death. Larry calls his editor and dictates everything he just heard. His story will go on the front page. His first week's pay is his. Now Larry can start his new life. A steady job, the love of a beautiful woman, and all alcohol-free. He's going to call the police until the woman's body lets out a moan. She isn't really dead. Larry panics when she tries to stand up. He can't let his front page story vanish. Acting on instinct, he strangles her himself. Once confirmed she's actually dead this time, he phones the cops. They're on their way. Larry turns the body over. Horrified, Anne's face is looking right back at him. He killed the woman he loved. Larry needs a drink. Charlie doesn't even get to tell his editor the news before he sees the body roll over. He hangs up and inspects the scene. It's Vicky. He's in love with her, but he needs that front page story.
How could you do this to me?
Charlie.
Charlie helps himself to a drink and calls his editor back with the full scoop. This tale gives us another down-and-out journalist, and we just had one of those a couple episodes ago. Larry's end is tragic, leaving him traumatized and in need of his former crutch after unknowingly murdering his new love. It is easier to hide an alleged dead body's identity in a comic book panel than on a TV show, so Charlie turning to the dark side with no remorse, ultimately choosing his love of alcohol and a headline over the love of a woman, feels more appropriate for the film medium. There's also the reveal that Charlie has been narrating his story to us tied to a chair with a straitjacket. If you look closely at the newspaper headlines and the Crypt Keeper's artwork, you can see possible hints at his grisly past, that he would do any dreadful deed for a juicy story. But I don't think we needed this. I think his turn at the end of the tale was chilling enough as it was without the added twist. The actors give the script their all, plus the noir tone is a sleek departure from our usual offerings of blood and guts. But for all the technical polish and a final kill that shocked our protagonist to his core, the actual story guiding us through felt as desperate as he did. I like elements of this episode more than the episode itself. This is one deadline you can miss.